What's up, guys? Frugal BC. Today we are looking at the Algorand Transparency Report, one of the big surprises. The Algorand Ecosystem Fund, created by Arlington Capital, being liquidated. Algorand Foundation getting very little of that money back. We're going to look at that part and kind of explore that a little more in depth. Plus, look at just a lot of the stuff that's going on in the Transparency Report. Some very good news, not so good news. We'll look at all of it on today's Frugal BC. Before we get to that, guys, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button. As you know, we just bring you the truth, the good, bad, and the ugly of all the stuff in the Algorand and other coins we cover, like SWI, Dara, Near Protocol. And we do focus a lot on Algorand, but we're getting into some of these other coins as they grow. And so we'll be diving into those should have a Hedera video coming up soon, as well as a SWI network one. But today, we're talking about the Transparency Report. Before we do that, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Non-Fungible Domains. If you want that .algo address instead of those confusing letters and numbers, you can get that today. Non-Fungible Domains makes it a lot easier to remember your wallet address. Link in the description. They got segments and vaults and all kinds of cool stuff, features with that too, so check that out. Non-Fungible Domains. And we are brought to you by Fractal Monsters, a play-to-earn game on the Algorand blockchain. I love playing this game because it's like a mix of Pokemon and Tamagotchi with a little bit of Smash Brothers thrown in. Great project, and happy to see them continually building and doing the right thing. You can play it for free. You can actually play it for free. You don't even have to have the blockchain, but if you want to, that unlocks a lot of stuff and some earning potential as well. So check that out. Both of those links in the description below. And now let's get to this transparency report, because I think this stuff is really, really interesting. Like I said, the biggest news is about Arlington Capital, and we're going to dive into that as the biggest piece of news here. So we will get to that, but first, let's just look at the transparency. All right, so I've dove into this. So really good things, like, for example, transactions on the blockchain grew by over 50%, and the number of new accounts open increased by 70% compared to the prior period. So that's really good to see. Good to see that period over period growth, increase in most metrics, as they say, and really strong usage, particularly by TravelX and World Chess. So I had heard that that was switching over. The chess bit was switching over to Polygon, but actually it turns out that's FIDE itself. But World Chess is still going to be operating on the Algorand blockchain, which means it's a good, safe, secure, and fast way to verify these chess results. So World Chess is where you play if you're trying to become like a pro, and you can get certified if you get to a certain ranking. I believe it's like 1100, so you can get kind of that first level ranking with that. I think it's like 50, is it 50 a year, 50 a month, something like that? Maybe 50 a year. I don't think it's that expensive. Yeah, they talk about the hackathon buildable. And the Algo Kit 2.0 is coming for Q1 of 2024. Oh, and he talks about kind of normalizing some of the financial controls around cost management when the CTO. This is from the CTO of Algorand, how he fixed some of these things. In 2023, I introduced a formal budget process that has been continuously monitored since, which is good. Probably should have had that much earlier, but good for him for taking the reins there and fixing that. And then, yeah, the Algorand Growth Fund, we're going to talk in depth about that. Yeah, so the structured selling program, that was paused on June 6th and remains inactive. So just so you know, the whole structured selling thing done. Here's some of the numbers around the governance program. So governance period 8, a total of 40.857 million algo were distributed for governance and DeFi. XGov community funding pilot distributed 54K algo through voting session 1, of which 10K algo is converted to USDC. Governors who opted into XGov have been segregated in a separate account named XGov from a pool that is looks like, I don't know why they used a colon there, but it looks like 1.1 million. Rewards would be distributed to XGov to remain eligible at the end of a 1-year lockup period, and therefore the distribution will be accounted for in future transparency report. BP9, total of 8 million algo were distributed for targeted DeFi and NFT rewards. Most of it went to targeted DeFi. Then they kind of talk about the amounts. Here's what platforms that went through: Folkspack, Tinyman, Algomint, Algorand, Meldgold, Humble, Wormhole, Xpact, and Messina One. And then on the NFT side, Rand Gallery, Exa, Lab, Shuffle, and Out. You'll see what happens with these NFT rewards too. By the way, yeah, it's interesting. During the rewards period in December 2023, Algorand NFT volume exceeded 2 million. The problem is though they tend to shrink right back down, so it has this like really short-term effect. You'll see that in the data later on. So I thought this was so this is worthwhile. This is worth noting. Has Algorand Ventures, which replaced the grant program, so they're actually investing instead of just giving money and saying, "Here you go, go nuts." Represent both in fiat and algo. Total amounts of 4.5 million algo and 160K in US dollars. And someone went to HasabPay, which I thought this was interesting. No, they explain it further down. Of particular note is Algorand Ventures' strategic investment in HasabPay. Should have had an apostrophe there. The foundation has been supporting HasabPay's growth for almost 2 years, first in 2022 with a grant that enabled it to move its activities to the Algorand blockchain, and then another one in 2023 to accelerate growth. So I was interested in this. I didn't know what that meant. I thought HasabPay maybe started out as a Web 2 protocol and moved to the blockchain. It turns out, thanks to a user, it actually moved from Stellar to HasabPay. So that's cool. I think that's a big win. Also included in here are Agora, DeFi Wallet, and Fractal Monsters, which, as you know, is a sponsor of the Frugal BC channel. Now here's where we get into the meat here. Arrington Capital Algorand Growth Fund investment, as detailed in the October 2021 March 2022 Transparency Report. The foundation subscribed 50 million algo into Arrington Capital's Algorand Growth Fund in early 2022. A similar investment, so mark this, was made by Algorand Technologies in 2021. During Q4 of 2023, the fund was replaced into liquidation. By the way, we're going to dive into this deeper, but there was no announcement about that anywhere on Arrington's site that I could find. Maybe I missed it. It's possible. But keep those numbers in mind, because it says the foundation put in 50 million and Algorand Technologies apparently did a similar investment. I take that to mean pretty close to 50 million as well. Keep those numbers in mind. That's really important. To date now, the foundation has received only 2.73 million algo, 2.737 algo to be clear, and 22,000 in US dollars in proceeds from this investment. That's rough. Foundation also has an interest in illiquid investments, safes and SAFs, which I don't know what that is, that were marked by Arrington Capital at a value of 744K. And these will be distributed to the foundation at a later date. So you're going to get about 3.5 total out of this thing, of a $50 million investment. I'm not a math whiz, but that seems bad. So let's talk about this. Here's their announcement. This is from 2021, announcing the growth fund. They're launching a dedicated $100 million fund to invest in the Algorand ecosystem. The fund is called Arrington Algo Growth Fund and will begin deploying capital soon. 100 million. Now, do you remember the numbers we talked about? Let's go back to that. Remember the numbers we talked about? 50 million from the foundation and a similar investment from the tech side, from Algorand Technologies. That would seem to equal that 100 million. That means Algo put everything into this. Now, they said that they put this in. We don't know this 100% for sure. It could be that was what Arrington Capital was starting with, and then Algorand Foundation added on to that. But it just seems a little odd that they said they were starting this fund, and then that total amount seems to be the total amount coming in from Algo Inc. or Algorand Technologies and Algorand Foundation. So does that mean that they basically funded this entire thing? It says they're partnering with Algorand, so yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. So, but either way, it ended up being a disaster. Now, if you're wondering about Arrington Capital, who these guys are, they partnered with some other firms to form Fahrenheit. Partnered with other firms to form Fahrenheit, which was the group that was successful in acquiring Celsius Networks assets and basically steering it out of bankruptcy. So they're the ones that are in charge of that. Also, their founder, I believe, or someone from their firm who was on the board, actually gave up their board seat on Celsius, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what that all means, but basically Arrington Capital not doing so great. They had to liquidate that fund, and no explanation of why they're liquidating that fund. They released, so the foundation released Algorand from, or I'm sorry, the Algorand Foundation released Arlington Capital from that part of the fund from their NDA, but it doesn't sound like Arlington did the same. So they're just not talking. And I didn't see any announcement. This is what came up. I did see an announcement. We can see what they funded, though, if you want to see what they funded. This countdown to 2023 recap is the last one on here. There's nothing else. There's no 2020. There's no countdown to 2024 with a recap of them. You might see some familiar names like Macbook, however that's pronounced, AlgoFi, you might remember that one, and Tiny Man. I remember those as well. Of course, Algorand's logo is on there as well. Now I looked at these ahead of time, so I can tell you which ones had to do with Algorand. I mean, there's Algorand itself. Let's see, yeah, the subquery network was part of this, along with Polkadot, Avalanche, Cosmos, and Kusama. So that one wasn't unique to Algorand. Tiny Man, of course, we know Tiny Man, and you know, I'm a pretty big fan of Tiny Man. It's worked really well for me. So yeah, Milkomeda or Milkomeda, however you pronounce that. They do bringing EVM capabilities to non-EVM blockchains, including Algorand. I think Algorand was their first roll-up, which basically means, as far as I know, you can be an Algorand but use EVM-based protocols. But I've never tried it. I don't know a lot about it. I don't profess to know a lot about it. And yeah, AlgoFi, of course, AlgoFi, as you know, shut down. So that's kind of sad. CeFi broke, DeFi didn't. Well, your DeFi broke. Sorry, it did. Humble DeFi, which, yeah, I haven't used in a long time. It was part of my crypto experiment, but it just really didn't work that well. It didn't have any coins that I felt even remotely comfortable doing my experiment in, and so I stopped using it. And that's led by Chris Sweener, who also was the Voy guy. And this was just a thing about the Decipher event, which I was at. I won't be at this one. Oh, that's pretty much it. That's it for Algorand. So that has a lot of people like really concerned about finances and financial management at the foundation. Those were made now. Those were made before the new CFO was in charge, Chief Financial Officer. Hopefully some of those earlier spending mistakes are in the past, because that's not great. But let's look at the rest of the report, because there are some good news. There are some good things in here. It's not all doom and gloom, but I'm not going to bring it. I'm going to bring you all of it. My goal is not to bring you just part of it. I'd bring you the good and the bad and the ugly, and I would say that's part of the ugly. But let's dig in here. Yeah, so they say the outcome is deeply disappointing to the foundation, not only for financial reasons, but because the fund did not make meaningful investments in our ecosystem. I did ask, by the way, I did reach out to the investor email at Arlington Capital to see if they would actually tell me how much each of these got. But yeah, really disappointing. Here they talk about winding down the grants program. We kind of talked about that, how they switched to the venture model, which I think is probably a good idea. I still don't know a lot about it. I'd like to really dive deep into that and learn more about how that works. Apparently, yeah, still don't really understand that. Here they talk about AlgoKit, which I think is great. You know, we're adding Python, which they had a Python developer preview in December. We talked about that. Should be coming very, very soon, actual Python development. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because I don't think it's quite the slam dunk a lot of people online are talking about. I do think it's a very good thing. It's good to remove that friction. But there's other factors that are going to go into people wanting to build on a crypto platform. And it kind of depends on what their aim is. So if it's like a crypto platform for crypto people, I don't see that really moving the needle a lot. Where it might move the needle is someone wanting to build something that's more forward-facing, public-facing, that isn't aimed at crypto people but operates with crypto stuff in the background. Then this is great, because this would make it really easy, because then you don't care about your existing user base. You're trying to attract people from like Web3, for example. That will make a big difference. And you know, it got much, much faster. Here they talk about some para upgrades. Yeah, I know a lot of people are upset about not having a decent web wallet. And the fact that their web version is only read-only annoys a lot of people. But we did find out, and I talked about this on my channel yesterday, there is an extension, a Chrome extension in the works, which would be nice, because it's kind of a pain in the butt. I like to do stuff on my computer, so I don't like having that having to pull up my phone and make sure I have it open. If you forget to have it open, a lot of times it kind of puts it in limbo and you can't do anything. I talked about the Buildable a little bit, so got a lot of people to participate. 178 projects are submitted, so that's cool. And there were like $200,000 in USDC in prizes, gone to 17 winning projects. Top ones were Compex on DeFi, Orally on the consumer side, which is a Web3, decentralized Web3 ecosystem with fair monetization of creative work. Sounds cool. I know Hedera has a pretty nice platform that I've been interested in trying out. Interoperability, Janus cross-chain account abstraction system that aims to onboard users from other chains seamlessly, allowing them to operate on Algorand without leaving their favorite wallet. That sounds good. Wakanda, it's like creating a vibrant ecosystem in Nigeria. Cool. And then Tame Quest, fully decentralized pet battling game that implements procedural creature generation using an Algorand randomness beacon. I mean, that's cool. Why does everyone copy Pokemon? We got one. I think one's enough. Fractal Monsters is enough. That's just my opinion. I talk a little bit about the Algorand Impact Summit in India, which is cool. I like that. And they're just talking about some of the coverage they got. And then the Community Champions program. All right, so I just want to cover some of these things here left. TVL and Algo and US dollar coin looking not so bad. But more importantly, what was the good one? Yeah, this is pretty cool. New accounts opened, a number of active users both going up, which I think that's really impressive, especially in December. I don't know what happened in December. They don't necessarily say, but it's nice to see those numbers really spike. And it's kind of even without that, kind of on an upward trajectory overall. I mean, it had a little dip in September, but had the right direction generally, so that's good. And then also a number of on-chain transactions were huge in December. And I don't think TravelX was around a lot longer than that, so I don't think it has anything to do with that. NFT sales, not so great. So I don't know if the NFT thing really had the program had a big impact. And the value of stablecoins on the Algorand blockchain has dropped. That's really interesting. I'm kind of surprised about that. Okay, so that's our main breakdown of the Algorand Transparency Report. Like I said, there's some positives in there and some kind of shocking news about Arlington Capital's Algorand Growth Fund. And it's interesting because it does sound like they had at least a couple projects that they funded, but the foundation is saying they really didn't put much into the Algorand ecosystem. So that's very disappointing. It's one more of many that the foundation has lost money on, including, 4 Arrows Capital, 3 Arrows Capital? I can't remember the number of arrows. 3 Arrows Capital, I think. And there's one other ones too where they just kind of lost their shirt. And it's too bad, maybe just put it into the... I feel less bad if they invest in a project that's on the Algorand ecosystem and that project goes under. At least they were trying to prop up something on the ecosystem, but just giving these money to these kind of fly-by-night capital firms seems maybe not the best decision in the world. But what do I know? I'm just a guy in a chair bringing the Algorand news. So thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's show and this look. I'm glad they're doing these transparency reports. It's important. The reason we can report on this stuff is because it's out there. So I do give the foundation credit for that. Anyway, I've talked long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay safe out there. I'm Frugal BC, and I will see you in the future.